So the Nvidia app just had an update that allows you to automatically overclock your GeForce GPU with literally one click, improving your performance in all games. It also does this without any sort of risk of damaging your GPU nor invalidating its warranty, meaning you no longer need these apps to configure the overclock, then benchmark and do that process over and over again to get the perfect overclock. To download the latest version of the Nvidia app, you can do it via the website, or if you've already got the app, you can just head into settings. Then in About, you'll see this box here called Early Access, where you can opt in. Once you've opted in, if you close down the app and then reopen it, you'll get a pop-up asking you to install the latest version of the Nvidia app. If you do so, it shouldn't take long at all. After all that, you'll see a new icon called System, where under the Performance section, you will find the new automatic overclocking feature. You can literally enable it with just one click. Right here, you'll see that once you've initiated the automatic tuning, it will scan your PC. Nvidia states that this scan may take 10 to 20 minutes, and they recommend that you leave your system unattended to achieve the best results. What they're saying is try to avoid any sort of GPU-intensive tasks while the scan is performing. For example, some games might not like this boost in megahertz, and it might crash, or you might get something completely different that basically makes your PC unstable. Luckily, there is a restore button right here. Overall, I can recommend it as safe, although, on the other hand, I do have to say that with Nvidia being a beta app, this new update may have issues and it might not be implemented as great as it could be down the line. You've got to remember that when it is running this automatic tuning, it's using a sort of algorithm that is fairly new. This algorithm of scanning your PC and taking 10 to 20 minutes can only get better. If you want to try this right now and then try it again in, let's say, a few months, you are very welcome to do so, and I would probably recommend it. With it being conservative, it's definitely worth a try, and I wouldn't worry too much. After you have overclocked and you do want additional performance, you can go into the graphics setting here and go into global settings where there are more settings that we can optimize. Starting off, we've got the RTX Digital Vibrance. This uses AI technology to make the game's colors richer, brighter, and just cleaner, which overall looks really nice, but it's a personal preference option. I myself like to keep this off. DSR, or Dynamic Super Resolution Factors, is a kind of outdated technology that can improve the image quality, but it does this via rendering the image and scaling it at a high resolution. However, I don't recommend you do this, as it can hurt your FPS in-game big time. Instead, I would consider using a newer technology like DLSS that does this sort of process way better and will boost your FPS. Image scaling adds an upscaling technology paired with a sharpening filter to basically output an upscaled, sharpened image of a lower resolution. This can actually give you a decent performance boost, but it does come with the caveat of making your game look a lot worse. So again, you're probably better off using DLSS. Low latency mode is a mode that can reduce your latency in competitive games by removing the rendering queue between the CPU and GPU. This basically removes one latency step from you clicking your mouse to it reaching your display, resulting in overall lower system latency. However, I've found that this does differ from PC to PC, so it's something you really need to try for yourself. For most people, I think On is the best setting to use, as it's a good middle ground of getting low latency and great frame rate. But I have noticed that using Ultra can give me slightly less FPS. However, On seems to be really stable, and it's something I recommend. Max frame rate allows you to cap your FPS to a max setting. I recommend you set this to off, as you can do this max frame rate cap in most games anyway. Monitor technology will probably only be visible to people whose monitors support Nvidia G-Sync. If you don't know what Nvidia G-Sync is, it's responsible for adjusting your monitor's refresh rate to become dynamic, causing display refreshes only when a frame is sent from the GPU. This can solve issues such as screen tearing. Overall, G-Sync can be useful to some, as it does have a lot of benefits. But if you are going to use it, you need to ensure it is set up properly. Blurbusters.com tested G-Sync monitors and confirmed that a frame rate cap of 3 FPS less than the refresh rate of the monitor will give the lowest and best latency for G-Sync. So if you are using G-Sync, make sure you set it up properly. If not, you can just use a fixed refresh rate. Power Management Mode lets you choose between power and performance on your graphics card. After my testing, I found that the performance setting didn't increase my FPS by a lot. It wasn't really noticeable at all. What it did do, though, was increase my temperatures and power usage. So I found it was best just left on the default or normal option rather than prefer performance. It's something you can test out on your own PC, though. Shader cache size stores any shaders that the game has to compile in real time for use later. Normally, the larger the shader cache, the less likely you are to have to regenerate a shader, resulting in better performance. The downside to this, though, is wasting disk space on a larger shader cache. Most people like to put this setting on 10 GB as it helps with frame rate stuttering and even improving startup times. I myself like to keep it on default as I haven't noticed much difference at all on my PC. Setting it to 10 GB is just the same on both. Finally, we've got vertical sync and virtual reality. Both of these I just leave on the default option, so that's use 3D application setting, and I've got virtual reality off as I don't use that. As a final note, I want to tell you guys about the driver section too. A lot of people forget that you can actually update your drivers inside the Nvidia app and see everything that's been changed on them. Under gaming, we've got some fixes for GeForce Experience, which a lot of players do use, along with some other things regarding monitors and stuff like that. Same with new hardware, as well as optimal settings for newer games. If you play X-Defiant, this driver may actually be appealing to you. Another thing that came up recently is a free Game Pass. If you want to try out the Game Pass, which has a ton of free games, you can do so and get 3 months of this. All you have to do is go and redeem it. It's super simple and a great way to get some awesome games like Power World and so many more for completely free. That right there were some additional GPU tuning settings you can apply in addition to the overclock settings. If this helped out, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. And before you go, check out any of my other videos on screen right now.